Hello and good morning. Today we're going to deal with the second session of heartfulness, relaxation, and meditation, in which we're going to talk about some simple techniques to deepen the experience. So let us start with a recap on what meditation is. So ask students the question in terms of what meditation is, and you will receive various answers, and you can then share with them in terms of what it really means. Essentially, meditation is a technique to train the mind, and to be able to meditate is nothing but the ability to hold on to one thought for a period of time. Let's develop this further. You might want to ask the question as to why one should meditate. What are the benefits of meditation? And again, once you receive answers, you can share these thoughts with them. That meditation provides benefits on two levels. One is at the mental level, where it provides greater focus, it improves clarity of thought, it helps us relax, and it improves our productivity. But at a deeper level, with continued practice of meditation, since we meditate on the heart, it brings inner peace, it promotes inner change and promotes positivity, it helps build inner balance, and also promotes inner excellence. That is the reason why we meditate. To go to the next step, who can meditate? So there are two parts to the answer. Anybody with a mind, which is all human beings, can meditate. The only requirement is that they should be more than 15 years of age. The reason being, the growth of the brain and the maturity comes in at that kind of age. So we at Heartfulness we start meditation at the age of 15. And the second part is that, like anybody who's gone through the 3 introductory sessions, like in the last couple of days and today being the 3rd session, can start the meditation session, and they can start meditating on their own. The next question is, when should one meditate? The ideal time to meditate is early in the morning, but if they're not able to, we can meditate whenever we get the chance to meditate. There's nothing hard and fast about this practice. So like this, you go on to the next question, where should one sit to meditate? The answer is pretty obvious. You can sit anywhere. If possible, try and sit in the same place. And when we start meditation, it's better to sit in a calm place with less noise so that we're not disturbed, as again sitting in a matatu. Though with practice, you should be able to sit in a matatu and meditate as well. And how should one meditate? How do we meditate? What is the technique? It's very simple. We sit calm, we get relaxed. We gently bring our attention to the heart and make a suggestion that there is a source of light in our hearts. Just try to remain there. Just try and feel what's happening instead of thinking. The key is to transition from thinking to feeling. And if any thoughts should come, disturb us, just ignore that and just go back to this idea that there is a light in our heart. So this will help recap what meditation is. What we've covered so far is just meditation as a technique. Now, meditation starts with the mind. It has to do with the mind before it gets into deeper levels. But then here, we're not only talking about meditation, but we're talking about heartfulness meditation. So there is the question of heart which comes up in this context. So let's step to that question of what the heart really represents. In the picture here, you can see that there are birds of various hues and colors that's coming out of the heart. And what this might represent is that there are several qualities in the heart, and this might be positive or negative or shades of gray in between. But what we are is really represented by our heart, and that is what this picture represents. Warming up before we do serious exercises. Here too, how do we relax the body and the mind so that we can even attempt meditation. So, in a way, just like warming up prepares us for exercises, more strenuous exercises, similarly, meditation is the real activity to train the mind. But relaxation, it relaxes our body and mind so that it puts us in a state where we get ready to try and do meditation. That is the purpose of relaxation. And once the body and mind is relaxed prior to meditation, then we're in a state of readiness. We can now begin to try and meditate. So, those three slides were just recapping what we did yesterday in the first session, which is the very first introduction session. Now, over the next few slides, what we will do is to touch on some deeper concepts and expand their understanding a little more. Now, what we do is to show a slide like this, okay, and ask somebody to volunteer to stand up and read. You'd find that the students will be able to read it. I wandered lonely as a cloud, and so on. But you find that there's a lot of struggle, okay, and there'll be a lot of laughter and so on, right? So you ask them the question, why is it so difficult to read this slide, no? And the obvious answer is that the punctuations are missing and the space between the characters are missing. And that's what makes it very difficult to read the slide. So pause for a moment and tell them, okay, and share a quote with them, which goes like this. It is not the letters on a page that is important. It is the space between the letters that gives meaning to the words. I repeat, it is not the letters on a page that is important. It is the space between the words that gives meaning to the words. So we run our life with no space at all, which means there is no pause between activities. When we run from one activity to another, from one thought to another, when we're driving cars but there's music in the background, okay, when we have a few seconds, we start looking at our phones, when we absolutely don't pause between thoughts and activities, perhaps this is how our life is. Now, just ask yourself a question. If there is so much of traffic, so much of chaos, how can there be peace? How can there be clarity in our thoughts, and how can we get work done? You ask them to read, and obviously it is so much more easier to read. Why? Because during the process of meditation, and it might be 10 minutes or it might be an hour, what we try to do is just keep on to one single thought for the entire duration of time. For example, the poem that we talked about is a very famous poem by William Wordsworth called Daffodils, right? And the entire poem talks about the beauty of nature. So instead of having too many thoughts, what we try to do in meditation is to bring it together on one single thought. And we just try to hold on to one thought. And by doing this, what we do is by focusing on the one thought, we are automatically withdrawing our senses from other thoughts, which means that we're shutting out distractions. We are getting focused on only one idea or one thought, and that is what creates focus. Now, when we do this, it is an exercise whereby we learn how to focus, how to shut out distraction. And this exercise itself is nothing but the process of meditation. So, it is a usual experience that as we focus on one single word or idea, sometimes this is what happens. Sometimes even that one idea vanishes. It is a common experience on the part of heartfulness practitioners that while you're supposed to be meditating on one idea, even that one idea sometimes vanishes, and people think that the thoughtless state to which they get into is almost the same as sleep. Since we are not used to the experience of thoughtlessness, being without thought, we usually end up confusing sleep with thoughtlessness, right? And it helps to explain to the group that just like sometimes we are focused on one thought, we're looking at one word, but even that word vanishes. It's similar that when we're looking to meditate or when you're trying to meditate on one single thought, even that thought can vanish, and what you might have is a period of thoughtlessness which feels like sleep. But there's a clear difference between sleep and thoughtlessness. In sleep, the moment you wake up from sleep, like in the morning, your mind feels sluggish, your mind feels uh, it's difficult to move, it's not sharp, it doesn't have clarity. As against that, you can ask people to feel at the end of meditation, even if they felt that they were sleeping, whether the mind is alert and whether they have clarity of thought. And usually you find that 80-90% of the people, they will say, no, my mind is fresh. Now that is not possible if you're going to sleep. Of course, it is always possible that some people have actually slept. Okay, and that is perfectly fine as well. Now, if there is a concern, oh, I don't know whether this is sleep or not, no, you might want to share an anecdote, okay, with the class. Let's say that you're taking a journey on a train, okay, to the neighboring city, right? And you sit on the train, and there are two people who go together. One sleeps off, okay, and doesn't know what happens. The other one is completely conscious of the experience, looking out of the window all the time and trying to absorb what's happening and how they're making progress. Let's say they reach their destination, both of them wake up, both of them get out on the station and go on their way. Now, what's the difference between the two people? One has been conscious of the process, whereas the other one has been oblivious of what's happened. Of course, while their experiences are different, does it make any difference to the fact that they have reached their destination? So, what matters is that you get to your destination. Another example might be that, let's say, two people are sick. They both take medication. One of them is conscious of the effect that it's having on the body and how the body is recovering from the illness. The other person has no idea, and they're not at all conscious of their illness or of the medication working in their system. But then both of them get better. So, what matters is that you're making progress on your journey and how you feel at the end of the journey, which is at the end of meditation, rather than how you feel during the process of meditation itself. Deepening the practice of meditation. One of the ideas is that meditation is an ongoing practice. Just like to maintain a fit body, we need to keep exercising every day. We eat every day. We brush our teeth every day. So anything which you expect to have a long term effect needs to be an ongoing practice, and meditation is also one such practice. In this context of practicing meditation, the idea is to achieve a minimal level of regularity. It might be even a few minutes a day, but regularity in meditation is much more important than how long you sit. So that's to establish the idea of the importance of doing meditation regularly if we want to achieve the benefits offered by meditation. The other one to experience, and applies to every other area as well, that our experience of meditation deepens with continued practice. Just like you plant a seed and it takes just a very few tender roots, but then as it grows, it takes deeper and deeper roots. Similarly, our experience with meditation also grows with time and it deepens with continued practice of meditation. With time, you will be able to achieve a level of focus and a level of concentration and shutting out distractions and so on to a very high degree, which will directly reflect in the quality of our lives. Ask is, what is the best time for meditation? Well, the ideal time for meditation is early in the morning, just when we've got up, and perhaps when there's not much noise in the environment, things are very calm and quiet, and we have some time for ourselves before starting the day's activities. Once you've got up, once you've refreshed, see if you can snatch a few minutes from your day and sit in meditation. The experience of many is that when we start the day with meditation, it seems to have a positive impact on our entire day. One other way to look at it is that when most of the time, I mean, all the time in the day, we are taking time for other people. We're spending time with others, we're solving their problems, we're doing work for others, and so on. But why not take a little bit of time for ourselves as well? And that is exactly what the act of meditation is about, where we take that little time for ourselves in order to improve ourselves for the long term. One of the common complaints that people say is, hey, I'm too busy. I do not have time for meditation. I will give you an analogy, a story. Let's say that you are cooking for a lot of people. Maybe your mom is cooking for a lot of people and she's asked you to cut some vegetables. There's a heap of vegetables that's lying there, and you have a limited amount of time to do it. Now, you start cutting the first vegetable, and you find that the one knife that you have is extremely blunt. Now, the question that comes up in the mind is, what would you do? Will you take a few minutes to sharpen your knife, or will you go on cutting vegetables because there's just such a lot of vegetables to be cut? That's a good example which points to the effect of meditation. It does take a little time. It does it requires an investment of time from yourself. But the basic idea is that it seems to give back so much more in terms of time, in terms of efficiency, because of improved focus, that it seems to be well worth it. Aspect is in terms of where to sit for meditation. Heartfulness meditation you can practice anytime, any place. It can be at your house, it can be at your school, it can be at your college, it can be at your work location. If you get a quiet place where you can just close your eyes for a few minutes, it's definitely it's something that you can experience. But let's say I do meditate regularly in the morning, where should I sit? Well, the place doesn't matter as so much as repeatedly sitting in the same place. We do allocate specific places for specific activities. We play in the garden or play in the football ground. We sleep in our beds. We eat at the table. We get educated in college. When you get into that atmosphere, when you get into that place, it seems as if the activity that needs to be performed there is well tuned to that particular place. Similar is our practice of meditation as well. Pick any sofa, any chair, it might even be your bed, does not matter. But whenever you sit in meditation, why don't you try sitting in the same place? Because it seems as if the atmosphere is conducive for that activity. But just by the uh, sheer action of repeatedly doing it in that particular place. Deepening the experience. What is the right posture to sit? Well, it is recommended that you sit upright. You might sit on a chair, you might sit on the floor, whatever be a position that you can comfortably hold for a period of time is good. Just the one minor recommendation is that you sit upright, because when you sit in a very relaxed position, or let's say you tend to go to sleep. And the one position that's definitely not recommended for doing meditation is to lie down in bed and try doing it, because it'll help it'll definitely help you put to sleep. But if you're actually trying to meditate, then it's not a good position, because our body gets so relaxed that in that position we just nod off to sleep. So whenever and wherever you sit for meditation, try sitting in a position where your body is upright and your head is steady, at least when you start doing the meditation. If your head should droop during the meditation process, that's fine. Let it be a natural progression. How do we deal with ourselves during the meditation process? in heartfulness meditation, we're particular that when we work with our minds, that we apply no force at all. There is zero force, and we need to be very tender and very gentle with ourselves. I put up the picture of a mother handling a newborn baby, and you can imagine yourself, close your eyes and imagine how you would deal with a newborn baby. You apply no force at all. You really deal with tender hands because it's so tender. I believe that we should deal with ourselves in the same way. Even when we work with our minds, zero force, and just be very tender with your thoughts and how much force you put behind those thoughts. In the early stages, when somebody practices heartfulness meditation, some of them come back and complain that, I felt some strain on the forehead. I felt a little bit of headache. Now, these things might happen if you tend to concentrate too much. If you try to concentrate instead of just resting your mind, resting your thought on one object, right? What we are asked to do is to just hold on to one thought, but not really force ourselves to just stick onto it no matter what. So, deal with yourself, handle yourself extremely gently as you would handle an infant, and you will find that initially the mind might tend to wander. That's the nature of the mind. Let it wander, it's not a problem. And every time you become conscious that my mind is not where it is, hey, I'm supposed to be sitting here doing meditation, thinking about the source of light in the heart. But instead of that, I find that my mind is wandering. And when you recognize that, when you become conscious of that, just ignore whatever your thoughts are and bring it back and center yourself in your heart with this suggestion that there is light and love in your heart and that it is attracting your attention to go plunge deeper and deeper. Just try it, and with time, in a very short time, you will find that the mind tends to settle down and stay longer and longer in the place that you want it to be, which is the heart. The last, I've put a graph there, in terms of to indicate how the mind tends to wander. Again, what we are asked to do here is that whenever we recognize that it is wandering and it is kind of fantasizing, or like in the slide yesterday, the mind is tending to jump from branch to branch and jumping between various thoughts. When you recognize that, that is the moment when you ignore it and bring it back to the central idea that there is a source of light in my heart and bring it back to where it needs to be. By repeatedly doing this, you will find that the mind settles down and is able to hold on to the object of meditation for longer and longer periods of time. Samurai and the fly, it would be good to actually play the video to the class and ask for them to reflect what they understood from the video. In this video, the thoughts that disturb us, the analogy is that, that's like the flies around the samurai who meditates. If we get drawn into the thoughts, if we get disturbed by the thoughts and we start attending to them, trying to push them away, then all our energies are taken in that direction and we're not able to meditate any longer. There is a quote which says, where thought goes, energy flows. I'll repeat it. There's a quote that says, where thought goes, energy flows. So if you're trying to avoid something, like, for example, we do not want to be distracted by thoughts, then what we need to do is not attend to distracting thoughts and actually ignore those thoughts. And you only continue to focus on the one. Ignore any other thoughts that come in. And by continuing to focus on the one, all the other disturbing thoughts start fading into the background. So much so that very soon that you might not even hear people speaking next to you, or you might not even hear or comprehend what's going on in the TV that's running next to you, because we are deeply absorbed in meditation. And this is a state that anybody can reach in a matter of a few months. So this video beautifully brings out this, and you can have some discussion with the audience around this. The end of the second day's session,
which is part of the introductory sessions on heartfulness. In this session, we dealt with some of the aspects which can help us deepen our experience with meditation itself and avail the benefits at the earliest time. Thank you very much for listening.
We wanted to extend the fundamental understanding of heartfulness meditation. You may take question and answers and from the students, and there is an FAQ which is attached to this set of slides, and they will give you more details about the Q&A. Thank you, and have a good one.